What a beautiful day to be listening in to the Apostle Paul challenging and encouraging and equipping us today. He says, basically, love your neighbor as yourself. This whole section of his letter to the church in Corinth is all about how to love your neighbor in the church as you love yourself. He says here at the end of chapter 8, for through your knowledge, he who is weak is ruined, the brother for whose sake Christ died. And so by sinning against the brethren and wounding their conscience when it is weak, you sin against Christ. Therefore, if food causes my brother to stumble, I will never eat meat again, so that I will not cause my brother to stumble. He's saying, I know and you know there's nothing wrong with the meat. But someone who's just been converted, someone who's just coming out of idolatry, they haven't grown up to that point yet. And if you eat meat in a temple restaurant, a pagan temple restaurant, knowing that the meat there was offered to the idol inside, and your newly converted brother sees you and it causes him to stumble, was it really worth it? Just so you could have that tasty steak or that hamburger? Was it really worth it? So Paul's point here is, what would you be willing to give up? What would you be willing to not do, even though you have the right to do it, if it's going to cause your brother to stumble? Now, along the way, we would work to help them grow up and to realize that it's okay. But until they get to that point, we can avoid doing it. It's difficult to draw a parallel between idol worshiping and what we do today, unless it could be just about anything that you know is okay, but for a brand new Christian, they might not know it. So there have been times in my ministry here in Fremont that I would walk into one of the two bars because I knew someone was in there. In fact, one dad and daughter were driving by one of the bars in Fremont and saw me either going in or coming out. And the daughter said, I know who that is. And the dad said, he must know somebody that's in there, because they know I don't drink alcohol. In fact, when I would walk into either one of them, the bartender would put the coffee on. But if one of our brothers walked into the bar and saw me there drinking a beer or something like that, if I'm not getting drunk, I know there's nothing wrong with that for a lot of people. For me, I don't drink any alcohol at all for good reasons, but I could. It's the getting drunk that's the problem. But if an alcoholic friend of mine happens to be in a hard place and he's really weak and he walks into the bar and he sees me there, he's going to think, well, it's okay for him, so it's okay for me. And so if I never drink anything, which is one of the reasons I don't drink alcohol at all, I'm okay with that. I could, but I don't. In the same way, the question is, what would you be willing to give up for the sake of someone who hasn't yet matured in the faith, who's still struggling with maybe some spiritual immaturity, or they just haven't had time to learn it yet? What would you be willing to give up for someone who's weaker in their faith? And I would hope that you would fill in the blank with anything, because I love them, because Jesus died for them, and God loves me. So I'm going to conclude by reminding you that God loves you, and we love you too.